Hello, welcome to another edition of Fourth Down Magazine's Fourth and Goal, where we break down everything going on in the Mid-Penn Conference. We only got a couple weeks left. We're going to bring in a couple more big names in the league, and maybe have a few last laughs along the way. I'm Jake Adams, as always, your host here with Andy Shea. Andy, I've got my Phillies hat on, but Berman voice here. Are you ready for some football?
Are you ready for some football? Yes, let's talk some football, Jake. Let's do it.
This is the best part of the season here, where everything kicks up several notches. We got a bunch of things to talk about tonight. We got a good guest on in a couple minutes here. I want to start though just for a moment. We had a lot happen in week 8 last week. Alex Irby, a week after he sets the passing yard state record, sets the touchdowns record with a 7 TD performance. Susquehanna Township has played its way into the Colonial driver's seat this week. It's rolling. East Penn looked like the favorite in that division for a while. Now it's a toss-up here. And did you see those Milton Hershey, Lower Dolphin, and Chambersburg CDE scores? And we haven't talked about Marcus Quaker much lately, who was a weekly segment here for us. Basically, he had another vintage performance to push West Perry to 8-0. I threw a lot at you. What do you want to discuss this week? What stood out?
Okay, so let's narrow down your Mid-Penn storyline word salad, Jake. And let's start with let's start with Marcus Quaker, right? And West Perry. Yeah, okay, so he accounted for, I say it sort of blasé, he accounted for another 360 yards and 4 touchdowns in the win over Middletown. He passed 5,000 career passing yards. Congratulations. That's a big win, and those are milestones, and we're celebrating. That's a big number, 360 yards. But I want to talk about what he's doing. So for West Perry, he is guiding a team through literally uncharted territory. And what I mean by that is being undefeated and stacking wins. It's been hard for them the last 2 weeks to win. As you win more and as you get the spotlight bigger on you, it becomes more difficult. But you need that player who the spotlight isn't big enough for. In other words, it doesn't impact him. He's that guy. He is the one that's going to steer them through the sort of abyss of, like, I'm not sure how we be an undefeated 8-0 team, Wilbur. And he's just like, don't worry about it. I got this. That is what you need more than anything, because schools and programs and teams are the ones that are at that level. The greater majority are used to it, right? Or they've experienced before, the coaching staff's experienced before.
Yeah.
This is all new uncharted territory for them. So, and it's hard. It is a lot harder than you think. So that was the one I wanted to address to start with. And let's talk
I want to interject on that too real quick and just say, like, we were we didn't have the show last year together, but collectively the area was talking about West Perry a year ago and what it was doing. And the sequel has been better than the original. That doesn't happen at schools like West Perry in the mountains all that often. What they're doing is incredible. I can't imagine what it's like for those fans, for those players, for Coach Bowden and just everyone around there right now.
And it gets harder, right? Because winning is fun, but winning is not easy. So that's my point, is it takes a special player and leader or leaders to help guide a team through something as big as this. And the stakes are only going to get higher as they head down the home stretch here, right? So I just think you have to look at him and go, yep, that's the kid that will make sure that they put their best foot forward and can make it through what is a very difficult thing to navigate, which is, as the season stacks up and you stack wins, becomes harder. So, and they've still got 2 toughies left. So let's talk about the Hannah Tribe quick, right? They lost 2 1-point games early. They lost to Mechanicsburg. Bad loss. There's no other way to put it. That's a bad loss. And I think that football team at that point, coupled with the, with the early loss to Milton Hershey by a point where they kind of melted down, I think they lost their confidence. And you could see it, right? They were playing like a team that had lost its confidence. And so they lose to Mechanicsburg. Then they had to scratch, claw, dig deep to beat Shippensburg the week after that Mechanicsburg loss. Then they played well against Waynesboro, and they started to get a little mojo back. Then last week, not this past week, week 8, in week 7, they completely dominated Greencastle. And you could just see it, mostly on offense, But literally, you could also see it on both sides of the ball that this team was playing like they were just getting started. It was like, oh my gosh, this is fun again. And oh, we can do this like this, and we're capable of this, which we thought we were, but then we knew we couldn't, but now we know we can. So what they did to Northern last week, that was not a surprise at all. They aren't cocky because they've been through a lot to get where they are, but this team has more weapons than most, and they're playing with an air and ease of freedom that I think is sometimes at the high school level, it's really hard to beat.
Yeah, and real quick too, Hannah beats Northern a week after Northern stunned East Pennsboro. 1-win Northern stuns an undefeated East Pennsboro, which now sets up, and we'll talk about it a little bit later too, Hannah versus East Penn this week, and basically a winner-take-all game. To transition though, we've got a guest coming from Cumberland Valley in a moment, so I want to take a second to talk about that team. They were 0-3 to start the season. They're now 4-4 and 4-1 in Commonwealth play, which is pretty incredible. Harrisburg will win this division. State College is better than the Eagles on paper, but a team that, I at least thought was dead to rights a month ago is alive and kicking. They got to go at least 1-1, I would think, to make the 6A playoffs in District 3. But that's very much within play now all of a sudden. What should we make of this team?
Well, it wasn't a surprise they were 0-3. I actually thought the Springford game was the one that bothered me when they got beat, 63-17. That's like, all right, you shouldn't have already played Manheim Township and Central York, which I know is a snootful, right? Both those teams are ranked in the state top 10 and still undefeated. And Springford's now 7-1. And then in week 3, you're playing Springford and you put your absolute worst out there in week 3. That's a huge step backwards and a big red flag. I think the CD East victory was worth 2 victories in terms of, not in terms of the standings, but in terms of what it meant to this team, because that was a 50-50 game and it was a hard game to win. So I think actually they've played fairly decent defense all year. They lost 14-0 to Central York. They were in the game. They lost 35-6 to Manheim Township to open the year. And Manheim Township came into this year as a grown man football team. It wasn't like they had any development. They were ready from jump. So I don't think they really necessarily played poorly against them either. They were competitive in both those games. Cumberland Valley doesn't have a lot of firepower on offense. They're sort of a one-trick pony. Their pass game is a liability, not an asset. So in order for them to have any success that they've had to do the little things very, very well or perfectly, especially with in a game coming up like the one against State College, who's probably going to be a little miffed after getting boat raced by Harrisburg last week.
Yeah, if you're the Eagles, it's like the worst week to come up against State College coming off of that kind of loss. But if you're CV fans, you can hang your hat on having a Division I talent on the offensive line who's been opening up a lot of holes for another really big talent who's about to join us right here. Joining us this week is Cumberland Valley running back Bryce Starretts. The senior has nearly 1,000 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, both career highs, and he's helped the Eagles rip off 3 straight victories, including an upset over Central Dolphins to get them within striking distance of the District 3 appearance. Bryce, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start off looking back quite a bit for you guys this season. You guys started off 0-3. It was a pretty tough schedule, obviously understandable what the record might have been, but you scored just 6 points those first 2 weeks and things kind of looked lost for a little bit. So specifically offensively, you being like the star of the show, what do you think's improved most since that 0-3 start with the offense, whether it's schematically or player adjustments or anything else?
That 0-3 start was definitely slow. I think we definitely improved on playing together. Like in the first 3 games, we were kind of like playing separately, and like we were having like mistakes, and we weren't doing our jobs correctly. And I think over the next few weeks, it started clicking. We started having some fun, and it just came together.
How much of that was just so many new guys having to, gel to like play starting roles on varsity this year?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have some youngins, and first year starters, but I mean, they've taken it well, and their hard work is paying off and it's showing.
Hey, Bryce, I want to jump in. You guys beat CD East in week 4, right? Okay, so you're 0-3 and you've played like a murderer's row schedule, which, by the way, it would be remiss. I'll say it now and I'll say it again, and I said it earlier. Those teams are 23-1 right now. So they're 8-0, 8-0, and 7-1. That's a killer schedule. But you're playing CD East. That was a 50-50 game. It's one of those games, I'm sure you probably felt it on the sidelines. You think you're going to win because that's what football players do. They're like, we can still win this game, guys. We can still win this game. But really, deep down, Bryce, that's a 50-50 game that either team could win, right? Like, we've got to go out here and take it. After the brutal road you guys have gone through for those first 3 weeks, and to win CD East in a game that you had to go out and actually take it and win it, they weren't going to give it to you. It must have felt like that win was almost twice as valuable to you guys in terms of where you were at that time. Can you talk about the importance of beating CD East and how you had to do it?
Yes, it was very important. If it was like, if we didn't win this one, our season was on the line because we'd be 0-4, and if we lost another one, we'd be like out of playoffs kind of. So we really just focused on doing our job right. We focused on the little techniques and all like the whole week of practice. It was very serious. We had fun, but it was very serious. And it showed.
So Jake asked you about what's improved. I want to ask you a little different question. Maybe you have a different answer. It's a little bit more football wise, right? You guys are 4-1 in your last 5 games. What turned the corner for you guys football wise that's making a difference? That was clearly something that was absent from the start. Is there anything football wise that is like, okay, we're definitely better in these last 5 games than we were at the start of the season doing what?
I think we're definitely better in our run game, and we're working on our pass game, and it's coming along. But our defense has really stepped up in the last 5 games, big time. But yeah.
You think it's the run game? So what it is about the run game? Has it become more simplified, or are the offensive linemen getting better at blocking the plays you guys need to work for you to need to work? What is it about the run game that has you saying that?
I think it's just our linemen, we're all working together, and if it's like a bond. Like, we go out there and I trust those guys up front that they're going to make the holes, and they trust themselves and me that I'm going to find the hole and they're going to create the hole.
You guys have 2 big games coming up this week, and the playoffs are very much in the balance. State College at home, obviously, on Friday, Altoona next week on the road, which that's just a grueling drive to make. What's it going to take schematically, performance-wise, an individual player stepping up or whatever it may be to make it to the playoffs through this 2-week gauntlet that you have?
Yeah, these next 2 weeks, we really have to just do our job. We need everyone on the field to step up. It's not just one player. We need our QB to make the right reads. We need our linemen to block. We need our wide receivers to run good routes, catch the ball. We need myself, the running backs, to hit the holes hard, break that initial tackle, and we need our defense to step up, really. And then we're really trying to emphasize like working hard in practice and like doing like the hard stuff. Correct.
So I want to ask you real quick. I mean, you get off to an 0-3 start, and I would argue you probably played a pretty darn good game against Central York. You didn't play poorly against Manheim Township because they kind of kicked the crap out of everybody, and you made them work hard for it, right? The Spring 4 game, you guys didn't play well. We know that, but you've gotten messaging from your coaching staff all year, Coach Oswald and his staff. What is it, because it's been a roller coaster, right? It's been really hard. It's been up and down. You guys are playing better. But when your coach is sort of sending the same message, and the leadership on the team is sort of sending their message as well, what's been the message that you, the individual players, heard from coach through the whole course of the season that has stuck with you and allowed you guys sort of navigate that very difficult and choppy start?
to not give up. They always tell us to stick with it and believe in each other. That's the biggest thing. They always told us to believe in each other and believe in yourselves. And they have this saying where it's like, do your job and trust that the person next to you will do theirs. So it's just about trusting each other.
Bryce, you've obviously had a breakout season on as a running back here. I was watching some of your film earlier today, just some of the highlights, just to get a little bit of a feel for, because I haven't gotten a chance to see any of the games this year. You got an interesting mix of speed and power and some elusiveness too. So, when you're punching through the hole, you got a linebacker squared up or a safety squared up in front of you, 5 yards ahead. What's your preference there? Are you a guy who likes to run someone over? Do you like the stiff arm more, the spin move? What's your favorite move that you can pull off?
I mean, if I'm going head on head with someone, I'm definitely gonna try to run them over. But if we're like if we're on the other side and I'm running to the side, I'm gonna use that stiff arm. I love that thing.
I've seen you bounce a couple runs outside. Yeah, that arm's
Yeah.
out. I want to flip this on its head just for a little bit. Is there anyone that you've played against, any team, any year, this year or previous years, where you see them, again, like 5 yards ahead of you, and you're just going, oh no, this ain't going to be fun.
Probably I would say last year, I think it was shoot, it was CD. Yeah, it was CD at CD. I think it was either their safety or linebacker, but like I remember I wasn't as powerful I was this year, but I was going head to head on him and he hit me and it hurt. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah, did you get the number of the truck that hit you? No, I'm just joking. You forget those. Hey, Bryce, let's put you on the hot seat. Are you ready to answer some short answer fun questions?
Yeah,
Beach house or lake house? Which one?
beach house.
Give me one person only. They could be dead or alive. That's your choice. One person that you want to have lunch with. Who is it?
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley. Nice. Give me any other team in the Mid-Penn Conference whose uniform combination you like or kind of catches your eye.
Huh? I liked CD's gray.
Interesting. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So last question, Sheets, with as little or much detail as you like, because I know everyone has their go-to and they have a lot of detail to it. What is your go-to order at Sheets, Bryce?
I always get half of a chicken sandwich. So it would be fried chicken, lettuce, and then salt and pepper, and I'd toast it, and then I'd get some curly fries with that, and then I'll pick like a Gatorade or something from the fridge.
All right. That'll do it.
Bryce, thanks a bunch for your time. Good luck the last 2 weeks of the season and with this playoff push.
Thank you.
So we had a shorter intro section here, but that's because I, being the director of our script every week, wanted to kind of set things up for what we're looking at with week 9 and 10 here. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these mid-bend division races. The Commonwealth and Keystone are virtually decided already with Harrisburg and McDevitt. But is there anything, Andy, that you want to see from either of these two teams? At this point, it's get healthy, win these games that you're supposed to win, get to the playoffs and set yourself up for that. But is there anything you want to see specifically from either of these teams?
So I'll start with McDevitt, and it's nothing. I mean, honestly, they can't accomplish a whole lot in these Keystone Division games from their perspective against the competition. That's just where it is right now, right? The gap is that big. They've stayed sharp. I still say the Crusaders being undefeated at this point with what they had on their docket in the opening season and how it first 3 weeks of the season, how it played out. Major accomplishment for them. Defending state champion, I get it, but they played really good football from the jump to win those 3 games. It wasn't like each game they played great. It's that they played good enough to win. And so for them, I don't see anything. I mean, Harrisburg, this team showed so much last week, right? And then that victory over State College. All I would say is play these final 8 quarters of the regular season somewhere near that level, because they know what's coming down the line. So start to think of it and getting yourself prepared that way. And after I think CDE sort of exposed them a little bit, and also at the same time punched him in the mouth and sort of gave him a little bit of a scare. Their response was fantastic. And just like their response was when Manheim Township took them outside the woodshed earlier in the year. So don't allow yourself to fall into that position again, because you know what's coming. So that would be it for those two squads right there.
I don't know if it's Calvin Everett and his staff or some player leadership or something, but that bounce back stretch from, nearly losing to running State College out of the stadium was one impressive turnaround. Harrisburg's been a talented team for years and years, so it's not like this was unheard of, but that's some good coaching or leadership somewhere.
Defense travels, Jake. Defense travels.
Yeah.
Their defense
They traveled a long way last week.
Right. They played poorly against East. Their defense played poorly by their standards against CDEs.
Yeah.
And defense travels, and they're not a poor defense. We know that. So don't go out there and lay a dud on the table. Go out there and play like you're capable of, and that defense is fine, but it travels.
Yeah. Similar kind of question here with the Capital. West Perry and Steel High play next week, and what, as long as things go chalk this week, will be a division championship game. And it's funny, we were talking about West Perry a couple minutes ago, and we were saying how tough it is for a school to go undefeated. Well, they've played themselves into this like perfect Hollywood script here, where they're going to face a state champion in week 10 with the division on the line. But these aren't opponents for either of these teams that they can really look over. Steel High's got Trinity coming up. West Perry's got Camp Hill, which has been a thorn in the side of a lot of favorites all year. What are you looking for from the Mustangs and the Rollers this week leading into week 10?
The interesting part of I'll start with Steel High Trinity, is if running back Messiah Mickens plays for the T-Rocks, right? He didn't play last week. He's been banged up and hampered all season. He's been limited, is the best way I can say it. He's been significantly limited all season since the Wyomissing game, right? He's been trying to play through. It just doesn't look good. Not that it's just he's trying, and it's just 70 or 60% of whatever he is. Just it's like, give him a rest. So they finally sat him down. If he plays and is, say, 70 or 80%, maybe it can make a difference. At full strength, I'd say this is a slobber knocker potential. But otherwise, if he doesn't play or is limited, continues to be at a limited status, then this game is most likely just a tune-up for the Rollers to get ready for West Perry.
Yeah.
And on the other side, can Camp Hill make it tough for West Perry? Maybe their defense can play well, right? But what is Camp Hill's answer for Mr. Quicker? I don't know. I don't think the Lions have that in their arsenal. Despite what I just said, they played good defense at times this year. I don't think they have an answer for him.
Yeah, it can't, like I said earlier, Camp Hill has had the potential to be a thorn in just about everyone's side. They pulled off a couple upsets already this year. And I do, this 2-week stretch had the potential to be a little bit more interesting. It's lost a little bit of that shine off of it, because Trinity was going to be part of this 3-way race for the top, and these 2 weeks were going to basically decide everything. Still has the potential here for them to play, spoiler. And if Mickens is back and healthy, like, that's incredible coaching decision there in Trinity to hold him for a week when, every player doesn't want to be held even when they're banged up. So it's going to be interesting. I would not be surprised if one of them is upset this week. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised, but not shocked if one of them was upset this week. But we gotta switch over here to the Liberty division. This week, we've got a pair of unbeaten division teams here in Juniata and Line Mountain. They've lost a couple non-conference games, but so far they're unbeaten, and they face each other this week. But Upper Dauphin is right there behind them with one loss and faces Line Mountain next week. Andy, I'm going to ask you for a prediction here. Who wins this division? Is it one of these two teams, or does UD backdoor its way into this in a week and a half at this point?
I don't know, dude. Is somebody else going to make predictions as well? So I can
Nope,
measure
it's you on
up
the
or
other
not
end
be
of
on
this
my O
line.
line. So I'll start with it. Juniata, what they did to Upper Dolphin last week was, in a word, revealing.
Mhm.
How's that? I think the Liberty ends up being a multi-team tie somehow. I'm not sure. I don't see a favorite, but
Yeah,
I think Lime Mountain has a tall task, right, to the outright title. They've got a tall ask. They have to beat Juniata, and then they have to beat Upper Dolphin.
yeah,
Win over Juniata and UDA. Well, guess what? That's what win over Upper Dolphin and Lime Mountain. That's what Juniata's trying to accomplish this week. But I don't know. I still see it ended up at tie. I don't know if one of those teams can make it through a double. Upper Dolphins on the outside looking in, right? They've got the
yeah.
highest mountain to climb. The toughest road belongs to Lime Mountain. And again, I will say what Juniata did last week to Upper Dolphin was very revealing. Was it a one-hit wonder, or will you see something resembling that again this week? I don't know.
Yeah. And this is why I ended with that division and the next one too, is because these are the ones that are so up in the air compared to like the other three. Capital is definitely up in the air too, but
Yes,
these I think
it is.
provide there's more like cloudiness around what these two divisions can be. And I'm going to use a term here that you've used for years since I've known you, the crazy colonial, at least especially when it is being crazy, which it is again this year being. We've got 7-1 East Pennsboro, 2 weeks removed from that stunning loss to Northern, facing a surging Susquehanna Township team who we talked a little bit about earlier. Township is the favorite here, maybe 1.5, 2.5 point favorite if you were, putting a couple Monopoly bucks down. I don't know. It feels like they're the favorite. What is the matchup, whether it's one-on-one or position group versus position group, that decides this game, in your opinion?
So who's the favorite is based on current form, right? I give it to Hannah, right? They're an ever so slight favorite here, 3 to 5 points in my mind. I like both quarterbacks in this game. I think both quarterbacks will have a say in the outcome of this game, and both of them are going to play prominently in how this game goes. But the one-on-one matchup you're looking for to decide this game, it's the wide receivers for both teams. They're both going to play roles in this. Both groups of receivers, both of them have an elite 1 and 2. Both of them can go to the house and make big plays. I think the receivers are poised to steal the show in this one. And the ones that go off on the next level probably are going to have to do that to win the game. So I'm looking at the receivers as being a difference maker. And I think both quarterbacks will play well and have something to say about this one. It's a very intriguing matchup. East Penn responded well to their upset loss to Northern. Not great, but they responded well enough. Hannah just feels like it's playing a different game than they were three weeks or a month ago. And I think East Pennsboro's is kind of in the same spot. And that's not a bad spot to be in. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what I look at.
I'm gonna throw a shot in the dark here. I don't need to be the one with the predictions in our posts that come out every Thursday. I'm gonna say Keith Oates is gonna finish with 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, and somewhere between 8 and 10 tackles on defense. I know that is pretty much company line there. That's what he does almost every single week. But I'm gonna say even
Called,
against Hannah,
Jake,
which has
that's
been a good
called you're
team.
taking the chalk.
I'm taking the chalk, exactly. Well, like Susquehanna Township, we're also trying to get better every week. So hopefully we're a little bit better week 8 than we were week 7. We'll be better the last 2 weeks of this regular season. But that's it for us here at the Fourth Down team. That's Andy Shea over on that screen. I'm Jake Adams. Be sure to head over to fourthdownmagazine.com for all of our predictions for week 8 or week 9, excuse me. And every other bit of coverage that you could possibly ask for. We'll see you next week for the finale of the regular season. Good night, everyone.
See ya.